We work super hard for our money, and so surely we should make our money work just as hard. Many of us muddle through the month without a plan, and like clockwork, we get to the end of the third week and we're broke. For some, this is like dipping into an overdraft or whacking things on a credit card, or even worse, asking the bank of mum and dad for a cheeky oneer that you never pay back. But what if life didn't have to look like that? What if you could build a payday routine that takes your budget from this to this? Yes, that is what true wealth could be for you guys watching this. And the best bit about this is I'm going to show you how you can do this on a very normal salary too. And I'm going to show you how I use this exact routine with a real life payslip of someone earning £40,000 a year, which is just above the UK median wage for full-time workers of £37,430. Now, wealthy people are who we want to become. And so, ladies and gentle chaps, that is what we're going to do today. Here is everything that you're going to get a handle on by the end of this video, and by the end of it you can use this. You can easily 10x your wealth from where you are today, and if you really take it on board, even become that coveted word of a millionaire. So firstly, let's tuck into the 60-25-15 technique. This has been massively updated from the 50-30-20 technique that you'll see plastered on every finance and lifestyle influencers YouTube channels, and with all due respect, they are not looking at reality anymore. And I say that because I've yet to meet someone who hasn't had costs go up in the past few years, in some cases by double. And we did a video on the rising costs of a basic food shop, and that was 48% since 2020 on its own. So the old framework, as you know it, that 50% was for your needs and 30% was for your wants and 20% for your savings and investments, or to pay down any debt. So I've updated it to the 60-25-15 technique to reflect the changes that we all have had in living standards. And I think you'd agree, you'd rather I'd be honest with you than giving you something to work towards that for the vast majority is completely unachievable right now. So let's bring up this payslip, which for someone earning £40,000 salary in the UK right now, we can see net pay here, which is £2,485.96. There's deductions for student loans here and a pension contribution as well. This is pretty normal for most to have a workplace pension contribution, and if you went to uni, then you'll be paying back a student loan at this salary. On payday, it's critical that you check that all is in order, and if it's skewed by a tax rise or NI contributions that seem a little bit off, speak to your HR or manager to get this looked into, because really you should be getting the same or very similar amounts each month if you're salaried, and if your pay varies, your tax contributions could change with that too. So if you're in doubt, speak to someone about it. Okay, so let's break this down. 60% of £2,485 is £1,491, and this should go on your needs. Now, what does that mean? Well, this is for things like mortgage or rent, groceries, and household bills. Then 25%, which equates to £612.25, this should go on your personal spending. So for things like going out, subscriptions, gym memberships, non-essential travel, and things like clothes as well. And the last 15%, which equates to £372.75, this should go to things like savings and investments, or to pay down any debt. Now, what I will say is there's going to be lots of you guys listening to this with expenses that are even higher, or those who are paying more on childcare than they are on their mortgage right now. I get it. I'm not here to start judging you on this. There are seasons of life that we live in, and things just get a little bit haywire, and you need to adjust your strategy to fit that. It does get easier. I'm saying this because I have a lot of friends with young kids, and I know that they're massively feeling it. But there will be some of you that are just plain overspending. You get an Uber instead of a bus. You get a Deliveroo instead of cooking for 20 minutes. You spend £30 in the local corner Tesco instead of planning a week's worth of meals ahead. These are the people that have got to find a way to bring their 60% under control. There is no sugarcoating it, guys. It is that simple to lay out a budget like this. One thing that I will also say is that budgeting isn't about restricting yourself like everyone else thinks that it is. It's about working out where you're being a little bit of a wally, cutting mercilessly on things that are providing you no value, and spending on the things that do. You have to look at things from a means perspective and not get wrapped up in this consumerism lifestyle we have shoved at us from every single angle. If you don't, nothing will change. So you need to ask yourself, what is more painful in this situation? Living paycheck to paycheck, or being a bit more thoughtful with your cash, which in turn can help you create that lifestyle that you truly want. The choice is yours. And look, there is 100% people out there that would love to save, but just can't, or are literally struggling to keep the lights on. So if you're in a position where you could save and you're just blowing it on takeaways because you can't be asked to pick up a 15-minute meals book, sort it out please today, guys, come on. Now, a lot of you guys might get this budget done once and then next month you think, I can't be asked. I sorted it out once and spreadsheets, they just annoy me. Well, in this case, guys, use a technology, use an app. There's Snoop, there's Emma, there's Plum, which all connect to your bank account and they help sort all of this out for you. Then you could be sitting on your commute looking at it, or on your lunch break, or on your sacred throne at home, you know, the one after the morning coffee, lol. But if you do this with an app, it literally takes 5 minutes. Now, next up, we need to know what to do with our money when we actually get it. It isn't a simple case of getting the money into one place and then trying to figure it all out. This is the fastest way to blow all of your hard work here out of the water. We have to give every pound we earn a job. We've worked hard for it, so we should give it a job ourselves. And we do this through a very simple banking system called the 3-bank system. So yes, you guessed it, we have 3 banks. Bank number 1 is a current account. Bank number 2 is also a current account. And bank number 3, this is a savings account or a cash ISA, which is a tax-free savings account. Now, what you do is you get paid into bank number 1, then you do something called paying yourself first. So this is that 15% that we just spoke about earlier, and that goes into your savings account or an investing account if you do want to add a 4th bank to the mix, which I would definitely encourage you to do if you actually want to grow your wealth. Then once you've paid yourself, you pay the 60% into bank number 2. This is where all your fixed bills come out of. And what is left leaves you with your spending money in bank number 1. Just by separating it out like this, it gives you so much more control. It means you're saving and investing. It means your bills are paid on time, and the money that is left is yours to do whatever you want with. What I would also do with this is budget the remaining personal spending money, so down into say 25% chunks down into weeks, so you know what you had to spend each week. That way you can keep tabs on yourself in smaller chunks. This just makes it a lot easier to make it through to the end of the month. And if you overspend in 1 week, you take it easier the next instead of blowing the entire lot like many do in 2 weeks' time. And guys, it really is as simple as that too. You're putting your savings and investing goals before your bills, which is critically important, and you're budgeting your money like an absolute boss. It's very hard to mess it up unless you massively overspend from there. Now, the next step to really level up your savings and investments to get you towards that coveted goal of financial freedom. So instead of saying £1 million, and yes, that is totally possible, by the way, even at this salary level, financial freedom looks different for different people. What I would do is take your 60% needs and your 25% personal spending amount, which gives us 85% of your net income. So to do this with the same salary that we were discussing earlier, which was £2,485, 85% is £2,112. So we take that £2,112 and we times it by 12 to give us £25,347. So to find your financial freedom number, all we simply do is we multiply £25,347 by 25, and that gives us a total of £633,675. Now that number would safely allow you to withdraw 4% a year of it, which guess what is £25,347. And if we are getting that or more from our savings and investments in terms of growth, which is 100% possible, by the way, I'm going to explain that in just a minute, you can live safely knowing that you have the exact amount that you need to live right now without needing to work or do anything at all if you wanted. But how on earth do I get to this enormous sounding amount, Sammy? Well, dear friends, that's a good question, and I'm very glad that you asked it. Did you ask it? I don't think you did. But anyway, for the everyday person, just like you and me, investing is the only real way we can grow our wealth. Before we even consider investing, we do have to make sure of one thing. We have to make sure that we've paid off our consumer debt. So lingering credit cards, those Klarna payments that are knocking around, any loans. These don't include your student loan, by the way, and this doesn't include things like mortgages. This is what we call good debt because they're actually furthering your life in some capacity. Now, once that consumer debt is cleared, secure yourself with an emergency fund, which can be as simple as a few months worth of living expenses. And then we start investing. We can either invest into the stock market or ourselves, which is also a pretty good option too, or we could invest into property. For this, I'm going to talk about the stock market because property is very expensive to buy for most starting out, and investing in yourself is so varied. So let's take that 15% that we had in our budget earlier, which was £372, give or take, but I'm going to call it £370. So for argument's sake, let's say we invested it into a simple index fund through a stocks and shares ISA account. Now, an index fund is simply a list of companies from a particular country or continent, or in some cases globally as well. For this, I'll pick one of the most famous ones, which is the S&P 500, the 500 largest companies in the USA. Now, the great thing about indexes like the S&P 500 is that you always hold the top companies within that particular index, and they're passive too, which basically means you don't need to do anything other than own it. If a company drops off the list, it's simply replaced by another one. Plus, they're super cheap to buy too. Now, the S&P 500 has returned an average of 10% a year since its inception, but obviously that's not guaranteed in any way. What I would say is that studies have shown that the longer you invest for, the lower your risk becomes. So over 20 years, you have a 0.1% chance of losing money, which I'm taking every single day of the week. So how long would it actually take us to get to that £633,000? I'm going to open this very simple compound interest calculator and we'll walk you through how long it would actually take to get to that number. So let's pop in that £370 to get ourselves started. I'm going to put 10% in the yearly return section. I'm going to put £370 a month in the monthly section at the bottom here. And because I worked this out earlier, guys, I'm going to whack 27 years and 4 months into the length of time. Now, as you can see, this gives us just over £633,000 in final returns. You'd have contributed £121,360 and made over £514,000, over £500,000 in returns, which is pretty enormous, just over 4x of your contributions. This is how the everyday person can build life-changing wealth. But to bring this back down to earth before you start getting pound sides roll into your back of your head, none of this matters if you don't get your house in order. You have to get your budget straight and start focusing on reducing the big costs to bring down your 60%. As you'll notice, the 25% of personal spending, it wasn't even mentioned here, because I think it's very important to be able to enjoy your life while you save and invest. So cutting out the things that matter for you just for a payday in 25 years time isn't my ideal life. So focus on the costs that really matter here. This is your mortgage, your rent, your yearly bills, etc. The savings here can be huge and can free up extra cash to go into your investments or your savings, helping you get towards your goals a lot faster. And so guys, I think the next video to follow on from this, which is the perfect next step in my opinion, is my how to invest your first £100 video, which is coming up on screen right now. I really do think it is the perfect next step. So click on that right now and I'll see you guys over there. And if you're not subscribed to the channel, please make sure you are, and I'll see you guys on the next one. It's been a real pleasure. Peace.